Now I am going to present video number 4 that is based on lesson plan number 4. The informative data, school's name, it doesn't apply. The theme, there is, and also there are. Date, December 10th, 2020. The grade is for first baccalaureate. The class length, 45 minutes, proficiency level elementary A2.2, CEFR. And the lesson plan designer is me, Laura Salazar Viteri. The TEFL objectives. During these lessons, the students will be able to, for listening, identify and follow instructions, as well as understanding a conversation about a famous tourist city in their country. For speaking, use of there is and there are correctly. For reading, answer some questions from the reading Strange Towns. And for writing, construct a reading conversation between two people about a famous tourist city in their country. The methods that I use for this lesson are audiolingual method, total physical response, direct method, task-based language learning. The strategies used for this lesson: set realistic expectation and goals, visual and manipulatives, speak slowly, use differentiation, whole class work, small groups work, pair work, and individual work. For the anticipatory set, teacher talks about a theme's town and shows students a picture of the city. Here is the city. This is the photo that the teacher will show students. It is named after the River Thames in London. The architecture is themed according to the classic British market town style. There are cobbled streets, Victorian terraces, corner shops, and red telephone boxes, the same as in England. It is a city in China. That is the only difference. For the main teaching input, in the warm-up activity, teacher will put students into pairs to brainstorm things they would like to ask the teacher about where the teacher comes from. So, for example, students are going to brainstorm some questions like, where do you come from? Where do you live? Things like that. Students take turns to ask teacher their questions. Then teacher will show students how there is and there are work. Teacher writes sentences on the board. For example, she's going to write, there isn't a metro station in the town. Teacher shows that it is a negative and also a singular sentence. Students complete a table with forms of there is or there are. So here is the table that the students are going to complete. So here they are going to complete with positive forms, and here they are going to complete with negative forms of there is and also of there are. Then students will compare answers in pairs. Teacher and students check the answers as a class. Students complete a worksheet about there is and there are. So in the first part, they're going to write sentences about a small town using the information in the table. So they have some information here, and they're going to write actually 7 sentences because the first one is already done for them. So it's like a modeling, so they know how to do it. So for example, in the first sentence, it says, there isn't an airport. So they need to complete all the sentences using the information in the table that they have in there. In the second part, they need to write questions and short answers about the town using the information in the table. So, for example, they have the first one. Is there an airport in the town? They have to complete it. No, there isn't. So they need to complete all of these 7 questions in here. And they also have to put the short answers about the town using the information in the table that they have in the first part. In part number 3, they need to write sentences about the things in the table of information about the town in A that are true, for their town. So for example, they have, there isn't an airport, there aren't a lot of cafes. So they need to complete the other sentences about the things in the table of the information about the town that will be true. So after they finish with this, teacher, between that, when they are working on that, teacher walks around checking students' understanding and assisting students where necessary, making sure students are using contractions where appropriate, ordering the words correctly, and making a distinction between singular and plural that is very important. Then at the end, teacher and students check the answers, asking students to explain their answers, why they are putting those answers. Students write sentences about things in their town using their is, isn't, are, or aren't. So they are going to write sentences. And then in pairs, students need to talk about their answers. Then students will share their answers to the whole class. Students read a reading about strange towns and answer some questions. Teacher and students check the answers as a class. Teacher talk in pairs about if they would like to visit or live in famous town. This is the reading that they are going to read, and they are going to, after they finish reading, they are going to answer some questions. Teacher and students conclude the class by reviewing the topic briefly. For the modeling, the examples teacher gives at the beginning of the class and the answers to the exercise will provide students with clear contextualized models, which will show students correct form and examples of use in context. For the guided practice, students brainstorm things they would like to ask the teacher about where the teacher comes from. That is in the warm-up activity. Students complete a table with forms of there is or there are. Also, students complete a worksheet about there is and there are. Students write sentences about things in their town using there is, isn't, are, or aren't. Students read a reading about strange towns and answer some questions. Students talk in pairs about if they would like to visit or live in famous town. For all of these guided activities, teacher walks around the class to monitor all of these activities. At the end of each activity, they check the answers with the whole group. Sometimes they start checking their answers with pairs, but at the end, they always check their answers as a whole group, so the teacher can see if they are correct or not. For the independent practice, students produce a written conversation between two people about a famous tourist city in their country. After that, when they finish, students will share their reading conversation in small groups. Okay, so they're going to produce their own reading conversation between two people about a famous tourist city in their country. If they don't know some city in their country, they can do about any other city. For the assessment, students write sentences about things in their town using their is, isn't, are, and also aren't. When they finish that in pairs, students need to talk about their answers. Then students will share their answers in the class, as a whole class. And for the closer review and follow-up, the class will be concluded by reviewing the topic briefly. And for homework, students need to make sentences with forms of there is or there are. Okay, that will be all. Thank you very much.